Hey, what is going on? Happy Wednesday. Happy first day of fall. This is John Ross. This is TJRS, the John Ross Show, coming to you from my one bedroom, one bathroom, spacious Section 8 apartment building in the heartland of America. You know what call it that? I don't know if you'd call it that. That's what I'm calling it. Kansas City, Missouri, USA. I guess so. I don't know. Well, it's me. Anyways, it's me back from my extended, unfortunate time off that I had to take because of just a need to take a breather and relax from doing this, which I love doing. But as I am in school, I need to take some time to focus on my assignments and study for my test, which I took this week. I got the results of my math test, which I'm saying I did okay in a way. I mean, math's not my strongest subject, to be quite honest. I'm pretty sure those of you who are either in college now or came back in college or would understand. What I mean to say is if you started college right now, or if you started college later, or if you were just finished college or onto your next phase of your life, your career choice, or maybe your next phase into higher education, you won't know what mathematics is like. But, it is a walk of life, I tell you. Not one of my strong suits, not one of my best pursuits. But anyway, enough of that old psychobabble. I am back. And just to point out, I'm back. I'm taking my rest, my relaxation, my drink of water, which is refreshing. So let's get into it. What is going on? Well, I'll tell you this much. I have to quit doing that. You know, when I want to talk about something, I just go, I clap my hands. It's like, it's a thing that I'm just so passionate about doing if I want to talk about something. I do want to talk about this. Well, I'm just going to share my screen. Actually, I have shared my screen. It's on the Twitter account, my personal Twitter account. Let's see if I can just, hey, to my one Twitch viewer. How you doing tonight? Hope you're well. I'm doing well. Anyway, I'm not sure how to do this. I have to unshare or stop sharing and then reshare. You know what I mean? That's how the world works. You gotta unshare and then you gotta reshare. Ain't that right? Okay, so before I actually get into this video, again. Okay, before I get into the video, I can't pause it because then the music turns off. And I hate doing this without music because I just like the background. I like the background music. Before I get into the video, what I'm going to want to talk about, because it's a long video, I'm going to have to kind of cut off, cut in between and make my point. So I have had a certain soft spot for this person on the left, as far as left media and progressive left politics, if you get what I'm saying. She comes from mainstream media. She comes from cable news. She worked at MSNBC for a period of time 6 or 7 years ago. She then went to the Hill, obviously. Worked on a morning show that was seen, in my view, as an alternative to establishment morning news, if you shall say. And yes, I'm talking about Crystal Ball here. Because I have a few things before any keyboard warriors or commenters in the chat or now or later start bombarding me with comments or criticism. But you got to hear me out first. You got to hear me out. You got to hear my take, and then you can do your criticism. You can do your constructive criticism that I can take. So I used to, and when I say used to, meaning I don't do it much anymore, watch Rising on the Hill. Unknowing to the fact that that channel or that network on YouTube was owned by a friend of our former president. Okay, I want to make that point pretty loud and clear, without sounding loud, but making it very clear. I know she's a leftist. I know she's a progressive. I know that, again, she comes from cable news. She worked at MSNBC again for a period of time. I feel that she has some good inclinations as being on the left. And then there's other times when I've been pretty mixed about Crystal Ball. Notwithstanding with the fact of the influence of her co-host first on Rising and then now on her new show, on their new show, Breaking Points. I'm specifically talking about soccer and injury. And I gotta say this, I don't think I've really ever talked about my view of him or my stance on him. I know he's a conservative. I know he has a lot of weird right-wing opinions. I know that he worked for the Heritage Foundation. I know that he's sympathetic to the last administration. He had, I think, somewhat access to the White House press corps in the Trump White House. I don't know, because I know that when he and Crystal were doing Rising, that they would have like what do you call it? A guy who worked on the Trump campaign in 2020. That I know. And I know that he's also interested in conspiracy theories and UFOs and aliens and the paranormal. Which, take the conspiracy theory out, because I don't believe in that kind of crap. Or I can just say I don't believe in that kind of shit. The whole UFO thing, I can take. But aside from that, his politics, not his left politics. Take that back, scratch that, reverse it. His right politics, I shall say, because he is a conservative. They suck. I'll give him that much. They suck. And but that doesn't mean that, hey, I dislike him or I hate him in any way. His politics just stink, and that's that. Having said that, this is one of the first times I'm ever going to see the Breaking Point show, because ever since they went independent, like most alternative media journalists do, whether they be on the left or the right, they have gone into this model of saying not being under a corporate culture, which is what the Hill is, because of course Rising has continued without Crystal and soccer. And anyway, so this is from the video I'm going to share is from it's from Vosh. If that's how you say his name. Is it Vosh or Bash? I think I've been mispronouncing his name. I think it's Vosh. it was on his channel today. Uh, they were talking about the Nicki Minaj comments about COVID-19. Her brother got, or not, wasn't her brother. It was her. It was her cousin. I'm actually looking at the page, that Wikipedia page right now. I can't share my screen. You know what? I can't share my screen. But again, if I pause the YouTube clip, it'll stop the music. Which again, I hate, man. I like the music. Keeps me sane, you know? Okay, so this is what the Crystal and Sawyer Breaking Points video is about. That Vosh comment on. And I'm starting to laugh because I was actually reading this part before I went on the air just moments ago. And it says on September 13, 2021, Nicki Minaj and she will not be attending the 2021 Met Gala due to the COVID-19 requirement, or vaccine requirement. She stated that she had avoided public appearances and traveling to visit her son. Minaj shared several tweets about her unvaccinated status. She wanted to, quote, do more research. Which in my case, like, how much more research do you really need to do? I mean, get the vaccine, get vaccinated. That's all I'm gonna say. I mean, no disrespect. Like, I don't listen to Nicki Minaj's music. I don't follow her. This is like the first kind of thing that I've seen of any kind of pop star celebrity that I'm even wanting to talk about, because I know there's like a billion other things that we could talk about tonight. But again, it's since I've back from my time off, I think I'll just do a chill show. Yeah, just get vaccinated. I mean, half of the people in the United States have been, of course, vaccinated. That's a fact. Even I've been vaccinated. I mean, I got the 2-shot Moderna. Suffered a kind of an arm discomfort in the first one. Got flu-like symptoms in the second one, but I recovered. I'm better than ever. I'm good. I'm all vaxxed up. I'm all vaxxed up. June Norton claiming her cousin's friend in Trinidad suffered swollen testicles, became impotent, and had to cancel a wedding as a result of the COVID-19 vaccine. Okay, like, how in the world, I'm just going to say this, how in the world do you get swollen testicles from the COVID vaccination? I mean, not trying to put a dig on it, but not trying to sound weird, not trying to sound weirded out, but there's a part of me that just wants to burst out laughing because of I mean, like I'm doing now. I'm starting to kind of slightly laugh because, again, swollen. Your man's testicle area down there gets swollen and because of a vaccination. These tweets received backlash on the social media, and her story about her cousin's friend became the subject of jokes and memes. So, okay, jokes about your cousin's, sack being swollen because of a COVID-19. I mean, again, I am unaware. I don't mean to sound weirded out or anything, but I've never heard of this. I've never heard of testicle. Can I say that online? I probably should restrict myself. But let me see. I'm slightly laughing. Of some man's private areas being affected by vaccinations. I'm just gonna say that right now, y'all. Backlash. Minaj then praised those who have been vaccinated, then tried to set up a Twitter poll on COVID vaccination brands. Trinidad and Tobago Health Minister Terrence, I'm going to probably mispronounce this, De Laste, That's how it is. Declared her claims were false and lamented fatigue, but wasted time trying to track down such a report. Asked about the subject Minaj's statements, Ingrid's chief medical officer, Chris Whitty, said she should, quote, be ashamed and peddling untruths on social media. In response, Minaj posted a mocking audio message aimed at Boris Johnson in a comedic British accent. Hold on, I need some water. Sarcastically claiming she went to school with Margaret Thatcher. The White House, they offered to do a phone call with Minaj, with the doctor, to talk about the safety of it, and which it is safe. I mean, the best we've gotten are, breakthrough cases. Which I unfortunately suffered 2 weeks after I did the 2 weeks full of letting the Moderna do its thing. I went outside with a mask and unfortunately foolishly believed that I was symptomatic to it, or asymptomatic, how do you say it? Asymptomatic. And I got a breakthrough case. I woke up and was just not feeling well, and checked everything out. I couldn't get a COVID test, but I checked all the symptoms of COVID. I had some of the symptoms, but yeah, and just thought, well, it's on me. I got the COVID, but I'm free. I'm COVID free, by the way, so I'm better. Boris Johnson, yeah. But, anyway, yeah. Questions of the safety of vaccination. Instagram live post 2 days later. She claimed she was simply asking questions and did not give any vaccine. Okay. So, having said all that, here is Bosch video. Yeah, Bosch. I want to keep calling it Bash. And again, I just unshare my screen and then reshare it. So hold on. Shoot. There we go. And again, it's 42 minutes long, so I'm gonna have to probably cut some stuff. Let's see. I just saw this recently, and I really want to talk about it because, again, as someone who, not a huge fan of Crystal Ball, I'll be quite honest, but someone who has somewhat seen her point of view, this video, this clip by Bausch, and again, I got to play it back and mute it. As someone who has had some inkling, I will tell you, of respect for one of the co-hosts of Rising. I fear now that she's letting her co-host, her other co-host, her right-leaning co-host, influence her a little more than she should, if anyone gets what I'm talking about. You don't want to do well. You get what I'm saying. Okay, so that's enough of my biting commentary. I better just let the chips fall where they may and play this darn video. This video by Bosch. So it's me responding to Bosch, responding to these two.
Tucker tweet against Hassan around 520. No. If you want to pull up an
I'll also say this. I'll actually do this. I'll also say this. I forgot what I was going to say. that's the thing. I just remembered it. I was going to say something, and then I just lost my freaking train of thought. Yeah, I mean, again, I have this feeling that while there are aspects of Crystal that I still respect and have somewhat admiration for, I feel that she's letting her co-host kind of push her into like more right-wing territory than it should be. And but again, that's my opinion. That's my view. I'm welcome to any kind of disagreement. And generally, this clip that Bosch is showing is a view of breaking points, which again I haven't really seen since they left. I've only seen maybe a couple episodes, maybe a couple clip episodes. I haven't really sat down and watched a full episode. I feel like in the future I'm gonna need to do that to kind of get a more detailed view of this show. But I know a lot of the people on the left are probably going to polarize me now, which I welcome. Like, hey, just state my opinion. That's what I do. All right. Now let's start this puppy.
Example. If you want to pull up an example of a political group spreading misinformation for political favoritism, and your immediate thought isn't pulling up the Trump administration, I gotta say that's kind of sussy. That's a little bit sussy. I'm seeing you vent right now. Crystal Ball defending Nikki's Tucker tweet against Hassan around 520. No way. Oh, no, 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 no. Oh, no, 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 no. I haven't gone over anything in breaking points, largely because I'm an idiot, but I probably should.
All right. Somewhat less serious segments about it. I think he has Candace Owens on to talk about it, of course. So Nikki tweets out one of the Tucker segments and just has a bullseye on it, basically saying like he's totally right. And so because again we live in like the worst of all times, of course someone had to chime in. Oh well, here's this as well.
I just realized I had my mic muted when I was going over the semi-rant of Jimmy Dore and Kyle Klinsky. And I realized I'm going to probably do some heavy editing of this episode. Basically what I was saying was, so people saw my mouth move without what the hell was he talking about? What I was talking about was Bausch had done a video of Jimmy, because he talks about it in this one as well, of Jimmy and Jimmy Dore, obviously, and Kyle Klinsky, and the serious issue that happened with Anna Kasparian at TYT, where again Jimmy Dore was harassing her, making fun of her clothes, and Kyle did put a video out where he basically said he agreed with TYT. This is what he agrees with TYT on, and what he agrees with Jimmy Dore on with Force the Vote, which is, again, it's terrible. And everybody kind of pounced on him. Vouch put out a video that said, hey, Kyle, distance yourself from this dude because he's only making money and views off his show by attacking yours. And I completely agree with him. Like, dude, yeah, you are totally right. And I've come to admire Bosch a little bit more than I had, because I only kind of watched his show off and on until now, and I have to say, after that, it's pretty good. But anyway, I'll quit chit chatting. I'll just play the video. I'll stop mumbling and rambling on. Just play the damn video.
The news media also pretended that the reason she didn't want to go to the Met Gala is because their vaccine requirement. But in reality, she says it's because she didn't want to travel because of her young child. So she feels that they were really twisting that. Okay, so we'll throw that one.
Well, to be fair, she is worried about the swollen testicles. At the very least, the Daily Beast article is accurate.
Into the mix. Okay, so then we get back to Tucker. She's saying he got it right on this piece. Somebody had to weigh in and be like, he's a white nationalist, and that someone happened to be Hassan Piker. To which she replied,
someone had to make this like crazy, some wacky dude out there just had to make this crazy, wacky statement,
that, basically don't tell me that I can't even associate with someone from a particular political party. Quote, people aren't human anymore. If you're black and a Democrat tells you to shove marbles up your ass, you simply have to. If another party tells you to look out for that bus, stand there and get hit. And then there's a whole back and forth.
Now I'm pro Nikki.
So far, in watching this, first time watching this live on air, showing this live on air, this stuff's kind of cringy. I just gotta say that. And shouldn't they be sitting? I mean, on Rising, they used to sit like Sagar would sit on the left, and anyway, their seating is so different now. It's like they should just swap what they did on Rising. But anyway, yeah, this is weird. It's kind of weird. It's interesting, but it's also weird. But hey, that's what happens when you go into him. Just like I have. But anyway, I'm chit chatting.
What's going on?
I know.
I keep chit chatting, and I'm like, dude, this is like so freaking cringy. But then again, it's also kind of good. So. Oh, shit.
Argument, I think that
and then there's a whole back
now
and forth.
I'm pro Nikki. What's going on?
I know.
What's happening? Yeah.
I'm like coming full circle now. I'm like, well, you're kind of right about that part.
That's good.
not really. Imagine if somebody wanted to make a point like defending some sort of ancillary political point, and they posted a clip of like David Duke making that argument, I think that a family's important. Here, this guy hit it on the head, posting like a clip from fucking 1992 of David Duke like chopping wood out in the forest, talking about the need to maintain a strong family. Like, no, who you get the message from is pretty important. If you're Nicki Minaj and you have an ungodly large fan base, you do have a responsibility to not promote people with bad politics. Obviously.
True enough.
And then there's one more layer that I'll.
Why is it that there are so many people right now in new media whose main position is that you shouldn't have to be responsible in media? Why is that? Like, these are people who come out hard against outlets like CNN or ABC or whatever, but they're way more responsible with their stuff than new media is. New media just lies about shit and like never gets checked on it. But there's fact checking that goes on within like broader media institutions. I wish you were tougher on Crystal when you met her. Yeah, I didn't know like which direction like the winds were sailing in necessarily. I didn't really want to talk about Crystal. I more wanted to talk about like the impossibility of a right-left right-left solidarity. I wanted to spend my rhetorical points more on that than I did on like calling her out, but I have a feeling we're not going to have a friendly conversation with Crystal again. I mean, we'll see.
Well, there's 2 more layers.
Yeah,
I promise. We're almost to the end of the
likely.
updates. The next layer is Nikki says, and I think we have this tweet, that she's been invited to the White House.
Yeah, that's very.
The White House has
that's very
invited me,
likely.
and I think it's
Let's see
a
this
step in the
info.
right direction. Yes, I'm going. I'll be dressed in all pink like Legally Blonde, so they know I mean
Shut up,
business.
Sog.
I'll ask questions on behalf of the people who have been made fun of for simply being human. Hashtag Ballgate Day 3.
What does that mean? Made fun of for simply being human? Again, like, what does that mean? Who? We're all human. Are there aliens somewhere making fun of us for this? Is there
Okay,
some
somebody in
species
Bausch's,
mocking us for our humanity that I'm not aware
Somebody
of?
in Bausch's.
Then the White House responds
Yeah, so
that actually they
saw
didn't
her
invite her
as
to
an
come.
SOG.
They did offer her a phone call. Personally, I think it'd be a good idea if they did invite her. She could talk to Dr. Offer her. Then the White
There's some We're all like, what does that mean?
Day 3. People who have been made fun of, all pink like. The White House, as
Okay,
Nikki says, and I think we have this tweet, that she's been invited to the White House.
Somebody wrote "Shut up, Sogger," as in SOGGER. Oh. SOGGER. Oh, that's too funny. That is so funny. All right.
The White House has invited me, and I think it's
Let's see
a
this
step in the
info.
right direction. Yes, I'm going. I'll be dressed in all pink like Legally Blonde, so they know I mean business. I'll ask questions on behalf of the people who have been
Okay,
made fun of for simply being human. Hashtag Ballgate Day 3.
I mean, made fun of for simply being human? Again, like, what does that mean? Who? We're all human. Are there aliens somewhere making fun of us for this? Is there some species
Talk to Jetty.
mocking us for our
You would
humanity
know.
that I'm not aware of?
Then the White House responds that actually they didn't invite her to come. They did offer her a phone call. Personally, I think it'd be a good idea if they did invite her and she could talk to Dr.
I think it's a great
Fauci, do
idea.
something on camera.
Yeah.
She's an influential person. One of the reluctant populations has been young Black people. She might have some influence there. So I actually think it would be a good idea if they did invite her. And then
What's
the last
up with the Jetty's
piece
hair?
I will lay on the plate for you is she
Oh.
says she's in, quote, Twitter jail.
Yep.
Don't know exactly what that means. Twitter says, all these tweets, by the way, are still up there, which I think if a common person tweeted some of this stuff, I'm not sure
they'd
it
be
would
done,
have remained intact. But all these tweets are still up there. But she says she's in Twitter jail. Twitter denies that there's anything going on with her account. And now I believe you are fully up to date on Nicki Minaj and the case of the swollen balls.
There you go.
Nice.
That's it. You heard it all here. Trinidad says it's not true. She tweeted out her thing. Now it becomes political controversy here. The problem is then the worst people in on Earth turn against Nikki. So now I'm pro Nikki.
Who's the worst people? Who are the worst people on Earth? People who think that she shouldn't
I can
spread
think of
like
3 good
vaccine
people.
misinfo and Tucker Carlson?
The White House says, well, she's not really invited. We invited her for a phone call with the doctor. Like you said, I actually would support it. And now she says that she is off Twitter and she will never use the platform again.
Oh,
Whether
cool.
that's true or not, we'll see.
If she does that, she'll be a happier person.
And like you said, a Twitter spokesman says Twitter did not take any enforcement action on this account. So who the hell knows what's going on?
Which is interesting in and of itself. Because again,
Yeah.
I think if it was a regular person,
There's no way
we just did
that
that
it would
the segment on Facebook and how
Why are there lefties like this? I don't know how sincere the whole thing is with Crystal Ball. I've said this before. I try to move away from like the grift accusations or whatever. It's really, really tough to tell sometimes. But like, man, Crystal
we're
Ball
all
pushes into like, what are the videos? We need to dig into breaking points more. Hold on. What do these tend to look like? You know what I mean? Is there anything here criticizing the right? Like, just out of curiosity, what are the vibes here? Also, wow, they put out a lot of videos. Trump allies says he's definitely running in 2024. What does that look like in the comment section? It's irrelevant to me. I only vote third party. Biden and Trump are both joke. They can't even criticize like Trump without criticizing. We need to dig. Man, whatever. It's really with Crystal Ball. I've said that the lefties like this. I don't know how sincere the whole thing is. Crystal Ball. I've said this before. I try to move away from like the grift accusations or whatever. It's really, really tough to tell sometimes. But like, Man, Crystal Ball pushes into... Well, like, what are the videos? We need to dig into breaking points more. Hold on. What are these... Well, like, what are the... But, like, from, like, the grift accusations or whatever, it's really, really tough to tell sometimes.
We're all grifters at the end of the day. That's the truth. Even if you don't think you are, you know that you are. That's just life. That's life, you know. But yeah, checking the time. But I'm speaking up pretty clearly. I mean, we're all grifters, and even I could consider myself one. That's what I need to do. I need to do a show in the future. What is a grifter? How does one become a grifter? How does one be called a grifter? Better word. Yeah.
But, like, man, Crystal Ball pushes into... Well, like, what are the videos? We need to dig into breaking points more. Hold on. What do these tend to look like? You know what I mean?
You should
Is
do
there anything
Gangster
here criticizing
Party.
the right? Like, just out of curiosity, what are the vibes here? Also, wow, they put out a lot of videos. Trump allies says he's definitely running in 2024. What does that look like in the comment section? It's irrelevant to me. I only vote third party. Biden and Trump are both joke. They can't even criticize, like, Trump without criticizing Biden in the same breath. Trump will win. I'm voting independent. Remember when Trump promised to get us out of the endless Middle Eastern wars? Oh, people got mad about that one. 42 replies. Oh, God. I don't know if I actually see any comment here that's just, like, Trump bad. I guess there are a few. I don't know, man. The whole, like, Biden and Trump are equally bad, vote independent position is a right-wing position. Young men flee college during COVID. Terrible job numbers for Biden. Empire in retreat. Could the Texas abortion law screw GOP in 2022? I'm just trying to get a vibe check for, like, the contents of this channel. I think it's IDW adjacent. Yeah, that's the vibe that I'm getting.
Yeah.
Trying to get all the Democrats who just moved to Texas to leave. Nice meme. Okay. It's not an explicitly right-wing comment section, you know what I mean?
I would say that it's more like...
Pretty sure they'd say they're not responsible for the things people say in their comment section, Lovash. Yeah, what is this?
I would say more like it's probably what I like to call the new IDW. I just hope that Crystal doesn't go down that road fully. But who knows? You know, who the heck knows what's going to happen? I mean, they've only been on the air for like, what, 3 months? Is that when Breaking Point's on the air? It was July. Anyway, they've only been on it like 3-4 months, so who knows? I mean, I'd say, you know, if you already have your criticism or your view or criticism or what have you of the show, so be it, man or woman. But I'm usually like, since I haven't really fully watched a show, like I've only seen clips of the show itself, but I haven't really been able to sit down and watch a full ass show of Breaking Points. And now I don't know if I'm going to after seeing this. I think I'm going to stick with Left Reckoning and Majority Report in the future. Maybe I'll come to this to hate watch it. You know what I mean? Or I wouldn't say that. What should I do? Should I come to Breaking Points to either hate watch it or again, not hate watch. Shoot, what? Maybe sympathy watch for Crystal Ball's sake, for Crystal's sake, because again, I have a soft spot for her at times. I wouldn't say that I'm a major fan because I have some things that she has, some people that she has associated herself with. I'm kind of questioning of that, but then again, like you know, it's not my thing, but who am I to judge? You know, it's what you do, and you're allowed to do it. You have the right to do it. So, I would say it, live in the golden rule, be the golden rule, the golden rule, and just do you. And we all live in harmony. But yeah, this stuff's kind of fracturing though. Also, I'll say that it's very.
The fucking skeptic community circuit.
It's very fracturing of the left too. I'll say that as well. As a questioner of things, a questioner of many things, whether they be it on the left or be it on the right. Man, we've just become so fractured in the post-2020 election scenario. Biden was president. Some people on the left have stayed the course, and some have gone so far off, and it's cost friendships and allies and unity, and wasn't like that 2 years ago, or 3 years ago. It's kind of sad, to be quite honest, to see the way the left has moved. Because apparently, again, we've not all been each other's friends that we were. It's kind of sad, kind of depressing, kind of egotistical, even for myself, who looks at all these programs and shows that are on the left, like TYT, like Majority Report, like Secular Talk, like David Hackman, you name it, all those folks that you might not even agree or disagree with, useful idiots. And to see them that they all want the same thing, and they just hate each other. And I know where I stand. I know the side that I'm on as far as left progressive media. I definitely, honestly know the side that I'm on. But having said that, I find this this culture very infused in toxicity. It's not good. It's not good at all. It's very very bad, very poisoning of the water, of the media waters for left, of the left-wing media, the alternative news world that I so have wanted to be a part of. But now I probably don't want to be a part of it anymore. I just want to do my own thing. And also, to be clear, I'm not, and to be fair as well, I mean, again, I disagree with her on a lot of things, but I'm not trashing Crystal Ball. I definitely don't want to do that. I would never do that, by the way. Never, ever, ever. If it was a male progressive left journalist I disagreed with, I could probably have my give and take. But if it was a female progressive left journalist, whether or not they agree with other contemporaries, I would never do such a thing as to abundantly trash people, regardless of what anybody on social media or anybody that agrees with me says or does. If somebody trashes me for not taking shots at that progressive female journalist, then it's not my thing. I'm just saying, well, I'm sorry, man, but it's not my thing. I don't hate Crystal Ball. I disagree with a lot of some things that she says, not all things. But I would never do such a thing as to just trash the hell out of it. And I don't think Bosch is doing that either. I mean, I did see I'd seen the interview that he had done with Crystal and Kyle, and with her and Kyle. And I have to say, it was pretty interesting. I mean, it was truly interesting. And I thought it covered a lot. I mean, there wasn't a lot of like give and take between the two. thought that, you know, they both meant well in their own belief. So that's my view. That's my feeling. That's my feeling of the left media, the progressive. Cheap beer tonight. Progressive left media in general. It's just, you know, it's weird because we all used to be like, well, not we, because I wasn't around at the time, but I would watch different shows, whether they be on Roku or on the computer or whatnot, and I would see other people like YouTube or whatever, and see other shows that kind of like go on as a guest or panelist or whatever, and they would just have a pretty good time. They would have a good conversation. They would air their differences out in a very respectful, cordial, professional manner, and it was great. I mean, even when there was disagreements, it was like, hey, this is how we're gonna. This is my view, but I respect your view, and you respect mine. And now here we are. That was like pre 2020, like 2019, 2020, or maybe even sooner than that. Like in the 4 years of Trump, when Bernie was still in place during the primary. Bernie Sanders was still in the primary and still hoping to get elected and be the nominee. And it was just like, should I play more? I think I should. You know? What do you think? Maybe I should. I want to go further. I want to go further in the video.
The ball pushes into, well, like, what are the videos? We need to dig into breaking points more. Hold on. What do these tend to look like? You know what I mean? Is there anything here criticizing the right? Like, just out of curiosity, what are the vibes here? Also, wow, they put out a lot of videos. Trump allies says he's definitely running in 2024. What is that?
They definitely do. Yeah, they sure as hell put out a lot of videos. I only do like maybe a few episodes a day. That's just because I take a lot of time off. But these guys are workaholics though compared to smaller channels like myself. We'll do take breaks every now and then.
Vote independent position is a right-wing position. Young men flee college during COVID. Terrible job numbers for Biden. Empire in retreat. To the Texas abortion law scare GOP in 2022. I'm just trying to get a vibe check for like the contents of this channel. I think it's IDW adjacent. Yeah, that's the vibe that I'm getting. We're trying to get all the Democrats who just moved to Texas to leave. Nice meme. Okay, it's not an explicitly right-wing comment section, you know what I mean? Pretty sure they'd say they're not responsible for the things people say in their comment section, Lovash. Yeah, what is this? The fucking skeptic community circa 2016? The comments you get in your comment section are reflective of the audience that you have. But it's not an explicitly right-wing audience. I don't know. It probably varies from thing to thing. If BLM surged up again, since Sagar was such a fucking fash when it came to BLM stuff, I wonder how hard they would lean into that. Joe Rogan floats CNN lawsuit. Oh, this gets a ton of views because they probably have a huge overlap with Joe Rogan.
I also, can I just like point out something? I would like to point out something. Yeah, as far as like the BLM protest, yeah, it's again Sagar. Yeah, he had several points that I didn't agree with with him on. Technically, let me rephrase that. I don't agree with him on anything politically. You know, I'm not his type of. I'm like his ideological. Again, I don't hate him. I don't dislike him. I just dislike his politics. We're enemies as far as political moves, but Are we going to be enemies? Would we be enemies in real life? Not yet, at least. You know, I'm not saying that he's going to turn me, because like hell, that would ever happen. The guy, just because he's the same age as me, doesn't mean that thank God. Thank God, I'll say this, that David Briscoe is the same age. You know, I'll say that he's a 92 baby as well. 92 birth. I just found out he's October and I'm May. So there's a week. So I would definitely 100%, maybe 120% agree with David Briscoe on politics. As far as left socialist politics, progressive left politics, however you want to say it, David Briscoe is my guy. And he has turned me into country music a little bit more than I should have. I'll give him that. And he talked the way he does streams, like when they would do the weekend show, not the weekend show, the Jackman show. They would do, they did a music show, a music themed political show with Jason Miles. This is Revolution, and he was talking about Johnny Cash and how the right tends to use Cash in his music to say that he was a conservative, and Justin's like, no, wait a minute, we gotta come with it. That is, you know what? That's be my next thing. That's got me excited. I'm going to show that. I'm going to get rid of this because this is very depressing for me to watch. I mean, again, I do respect Bosch as a streamer, and he and I would probably have a good agreement on breaking points, but I am going to look at that. I do want to share that David Briscoe book that I so. And I just realized I don't have my music, so I'm going to have to put this in music back. Music's not working. So you're going to have to sit in silence for a bit. Find the clip. I was there at the back of the van, back of the fan rather. I got a fan going in the back. So this is from it's from Jacobin's weekend show, and that music is so loud. It's up to 60. It's from Jacobin's weekend show, or not weekend show, it's from their midday show that they did back in March about, I forget, it was like corporate influence in music, because I know this was also with Jason Miles. So, excuse me, this is Revolution. I had to press burp. But in this segment, David Griscom, who does Left Reckoning with Matt Leck, talked about how country musicians like Johnny Cash were, I would say, misrepresented as conservative, because if you look at some of the lyrics that Johnny Cash put out, he led a he led a pretty radical life when he was younger, maybe even when he was older. A handshake from the 43rd president didn't necessarily mean he was conservative. So anyway, again, stop talking, and I'm also going to show my screen. That's one thing I forgot, because this is actually a really good clip of Jackman Show and David Briscoe and Jason Miles. Well, it's David and Ariana from Jackman Show, but it's a good clip of David, because David's a genius. David's a good guy. David's like an awesome person, and he's the same age as me, which is also awesome. Because He's he's a smart political leftist, progressive, socialist, what do you want to call it, Texan who has good taste in country music and is very knowledgeable about country music and knows his stuff. So I hope David watches this, and God, I need to learn how to clip stuff on YouTube so I can just put this clip out as this part as a clip so I can show it to him and be like, hey, buddy, we haven't really talked in a while. Because I used to DM him quite a bit. I knew he was busy, but anyway, that's I'm getting into weird stuff. So
on that note,
Yeah.
let's get to some of the more authentic musicians.
Well,
I like that music has I know I could go into the postmodern theories on authenticity and identity and so on and so forth, but that's what makes a lot of music political. That's what allows some people to inject their politics into their music, and people really like to be able to connect with people on that level. I think your segment gets to a lot of that.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm going to be talking about, I decided to highlight some big names, people that everybody knows, to make the same point that I'm going to be talking about three members of the Highwaymen, which is, one of the greatest country and just in general supergroups of all time, Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, and Chris Christopherson. No disrespect to Waylon Jennings, my personal favorite.
I just love this clip so damn much that part of me wants to just play it all the way through rather than just play like the first maybe. It's 16 minutes long, I know, and I know I tend to drag on with clips like this, but if I have to show a clip like this and play it all the way through, it's just because the people in it are of similar background, similar ideology, and have a really good grasp of viewpoints and grasp of the segment they're talking about, the topic they're talking about. And this one, again, from David Griscom on the Jackman Show, Ariella Thornton, her name is Ariella. I mispronounced her name, Ariella Thornton. So I had to correct myself. But this one with David is just phenomenal and awesome and really positive from the show. Again, no disrespect to Bosch. He's a good guy. Fellow streamer, he's a good guy, but to be honest, that Crystal Ball clip was, and no disrespect to Crystal Ball either, but that clip was sorry. It was kind of depressing. Anyway, let me play this clip.
Favorite, but these just fit really well. But I could also be talking about other artists like Blaze Foley or Townes Van Zandt, right? You might know who Townes Van Zandt is, but he spent a life, even though he wrote music that was covered by everybody, he was one of the most influential musicians probably of all time in the United States. Somebody who really struggled financially because he was constantly getting screwed over by this system, this capital system, which rewarded extremely predatory and also highly monopolized record and music industry, right? So I wanted to focus on these folks too, and also give a little bit of a defense for country music, or an argument for country music, because country music is extremely personal to me. It's been the music in the backdrop of my life. It makes me think of home and family and all these things. And I get very angry when I see the state of country music today, because what we saw happening in the golden era of country music, right, where you have these outlaw stars like Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson fighting against the record industry and really pushing a different kind of music. What we're living through today is a period of time where those record executives and capital in general has won out. And the people who get the most money in country music aren't making the best music, and they're also, think about what happened after 9/11. All of those terrible country songs, supporting the Iraq War, when that wasn't the history of country music. And I think it's really important for fans of it to try to reclaim it today. But let's get into Johnny Cash for a second. We all know Johnny Cash as a rebel, right? The Man in Black, You know, somebody who seemed to have a lot of fun, drugs, alcohol, all that kind of stuff. But let's not forget where he came from. If we have this first clip up here, Kale, Johnny Cash came from Dyce, Arkansas.
Report reveals shocking details. If you have $50,000 or more in an IRA or 401k,
there was nobody rich when it came to Dyce. Everybody was in the same boat. They didn't have no money, no nothing. They came here, they were poor as you could be. They were just trying to make a living to feed their family, and this was a new beginning.
Before 1934, Dyce Colony was non-existent. It was a cypress swamp, and it flooded frequently. And as part of the Franklin Roosevelt's New Deal administration, the federal government purchased the land from adjacent landowners, drained parts of it, and built a new community, a new town that offered relief and economic opportunity for farm families across Arkansas that were affected by the Depression.
And you know, it's an amazing story right here. Johnny Cash comes from that town. Johnny Cash was a product of the New Deal, was a product of social programs. And despite how many conservatives try to own Johnny Cash and country music, Johnny Cash would describe his early life as this: I grew up under socialism, kind of. Maybe a better word would be communalism, right? Johnny Cash had this radical upbringing that came out of the labor militancy that was able to push through so many of the best programs of the New Deal. And let's not forget, you know, we all know the story of Johnny Cash. He spent a long time fighting to get into the music industry. Remember, it took a lot for him to really get a serious listen from the folks who basically owned access to the radio waves. You know, but of course, we all know Johnny Cash is a household name. He became.
I just literally remembered to unmute myself. I was doing a show. I just literally did this whole laudatory thing of David and realized my mic was muted. So again, the whole his view of Johnny Cash is again, someone like myself who's in the Midwest. Grew up in the Midwest, grew up in conservatism, more or less. Grew up, you know, with country music being played on the radio, on the school bus radio, rather than the local radio station that played the alternative music, alternative rock music that I so still love to this day. And then, you know, the Johnny Cash song came on the radio. Most of the conservative fan base would claim it as their own. So this here, again, this, before I realized my mic was muted, was a good way of saying, hey, Johnny Cash sort of called himself sort of a socialist. So, no, and he was actually quite radical as well. I think David points that out later, just in a few moments. So, yeah, that's one of the things. If you show this to a conservative, again, a conservative fan of Johnny Cash, or even Willie Nelson for that matter, because Willie is very, very left-wing. I mean, diehard leftist, probably even a dyed-in-the-wool liberal, or I wouldn't even, maybe dyed in the wool progressive. I'll say that much. I'll say that. Show that to a conservative country fan, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah," they're again their mouths are raw. Their jaws will be on the floor within like 10 seconds.
An extremely influential musician who changed the face of country music and music in this country in general, right? But he spent his entire time having to fight against a music industry that tended to be extremely conservative, not just politically, but also musically, an industry that was very resistant to change. And I just want you to remember this, that these things are about power at the end of the day. From the previous segment, we were talking about how artists are trying to fight to have control over their own music. It's been the case from the beginning. And the reason for that is that capitalism allows a few people to exert incredible amounts of power over all of us, even if you're a big star. Music is no different. But let's talk a little bit about Johnny Cash's life and this kind of radical tradition. You know, folks might know this, but, you know, Johnny Cash actually played for Richard Nixon. And it's a very interesting story because Johnny Cash is invited to go play for Richard Nixon, you know, in the middle of this brutal war. And Richard Nixon requests that he plays Okie from Muskogee. For folks who aren't familiar with that, it's a satirical song written by Merle Haggard, basically about beating up hippies who are anti-war, right? Funny story, by the way, when Johnny Cash played his famous concert in San Quentin Prison, Merle Haggard was in that audience. Anyway, Johnny Cash declines Richard Nixon's request and says, "I've got a few of my own to play for you." The first song he played was the Ballad of Ira Hayes. Ira Hayes was one of the American soldiers and a Native American who ended up holding the flag at the Battle of Iwo Jima, that famous photograph. He wrote this song is about how he came back from the war and was mistreated by the government and the system. Some of the lyrics go, "Down the ditches 1,000 years, the waters grew Irish people's crops, till the white man stole their water rights and the sparkling water stopped." Then Johnny Cash went on to play "What is Truth," which was an anti-Vietnam song and called out was basically calling on the ruling class of the society to have some humanity and to listen seriously to the questions that were being brought up by the young folks in the society. The last song he played was "Man in Black." And for folks who aren't familiar with that song, that's Johnny Cash describing why he wears his signature black. And it's not just a stylistic choice. He wears it for the poor and beaten down, living in the hopeless, hungry side of town. He wears it for the prisoner who has paid for his crime, but is there because he's a victim of the time. Johnny Cash was through and through a radical. And if you...
Man, he is so on point with all of this. Dude, man, how good is David Griscom? I mean, I'm not trying to be laudatory. I'm not trying to be too laudatory here, but I can't help it. I totally can't help it, man. Dude, he is like so on point with it. You get any, like I said, you get any conservative fan of Johnny Cash or any country music fan. Like, I remember, again, I don't mean to like go on my own commentary. I'll promise I'll play the rest of the clip. But like, I really even remember when the Chicks, they were at the time called the Dixie Chicks, but they dropped the Dixie from their name. When they did when Natalie Maines made the statement against the Iraq War and said that they were ashamed that, you know, George W. was from Texas, and it was 3 years of like just protest and hate feelings. How do you say it? Hate, the big H word, I should say. Hate mongering. I mean, I hate to use that word. There was the death threats, the radio stations pulling their music from country stations. There was obviously the Toby Keith feud where she called his song, I heard it like twice in my life, and I'm not a fan of his at all. And she was actually right to say that his song "Courtesy the Red, White, Blue" is ignorant, and it made country music sound ignorant. And she said something or I think he mentioned, like, was it he that said, or she that said, anyone can write a song, we'll put a boot in your ass, something along those lines. And then he responded and said, yeah, she could never write that line. And then he, at one of his concerts, put I think it was in that Dixie Chicks documentary, or again, I should say the Chicks. The documentary Shut Up and Sing, where Toby Keith puts a picture at one of his concerts of Saddam with Natalie Maines and saying Saddam's Angels. And it was just like, wow, this is like, you talk about propaganda. That's the most weird, even in that time, the most weird propaganda of a country music concert that I would ever see. And again, I'm not saying that I was there at that country music concert. I'm saying like watching that documentary and seeing that kind of like what I would call propaganda, patriotism, is just like, wow. But in any event, I've gone way off track with the conservatives and Johnny Cash. But anyway, we'll keep going.
Do you think,
and my laudatory of wrestling,
that art can change anyone? That is quite an opportunity to play for somebody as insane and monstrous as Richard Nixon, and to play those kind of songs. And one last thing about Johnny Cash and his music, I think, and I propose here, a song that needs to become a mainstay in left organizing spaces is Oni, which is a ballad that Johnny Cash wrote about a worker who was waiting for the whistle at the end of his last day at the job, after spending his entire life working for somebody else, because once that whistle blows, he's going to punch his boss in the face. He dedicates the song to the working man, for every man that puts in 8 or 10 hard hours a day of work, toil, and sweat, always got somebody looking down his neck, trying to get more out of him than he really ought to have put in. I bring this up to just compare it to what you're going to hear on, popular country radio stations today. Nothing as radical as this, but that's the tradition of country music. And before we move on from Johnny Cash, I also just want to throw this one out here because it's a great clip from Johnny Cash, who actually was in the miniseries North and South. And when he knew that this was going on, he specifically demanded to play the radical abolitionist John Brown.
Hi, we're OfferPad, and we want to buy your home. Just go to OfferPad.com, enter basic information, and we'll send you a competitive offer.
I'm not interested, okay? I just want to play the game.
These are members of my staff. You talk as though we're at war, sir. We most certainly are at war. My men and I came all the way from Kansas to make sure justice prevails. And to ensure the freedom of Negroes in this state.
I love that clip, one, because it's great to see Johnny Cash as John Brown, but also because Patrick Swayze has a terrible Southern accent, and Johnny Cash just cannot, hold back his own twang. But let's talk about Willie Nelson for a second, too, because this is another person who we all know, because of his, love of weed. Willie Nelson is obviously an incredible human being, an incredible musician. But this is another person, too, who had to spend the early parts of his career fighting against a record industry which refused to let him play music his own way. And it's just something that you have to think about. One, these are labor issues, but man, it's such a horrible crime to think about how many other people were not allowed to basically present their music to the world because a bunch of wealthy people who control basically access to music production prevent visionaries and artists from being able to make music. He had to leave Nashville, come to Austin, where there was a much more laid back hippie scene, to be able to become the Willie Nelson that we all know and love today.
Of course.
But I wanted to focus on one aspect of Willie Nelson's advocacy that a lot of folks miss out on. Willie Nelson has been a long-time supporter of Leonard Peltier. I believe we have a couple photographs of Leonard too. For folks who aren't familiar, Leonard Peltier was a member of the American Indian Movement who was framed for murder of 2 FBI agents and is still in prison today, an American political prisoner. Willie Nelson constantly would do benefit concerts in support of Leonard Peltier and for Leonard Peltier's freedom. We have this one right here, Cowboys for Indians and Justice for Leonard Peltier. Willie Nelson would do these concerts so frequently that the police, to this day, will show up at his concerts in protest. And we have this last LA Times article on this as well. Benefit concert for convicted killer haunts Willie Nelson, right? That's from 1988. But basically, from Boston, all across the country, police unions will show up at Willie Nelson's concerts to demand that he apologize for supporting Leonard Peltier. He still stands with Leonard, right? And this is one of those things that gets completely overshadowed on purpose by a music industry that wants to hide how radical and progressive these folks were. Just while we're on Leonard Peltier and music, Stephen Van Zandt, who you might know from either Bruce Springsteen or from The Sopranos, also is an outspoken supporter of Leonard Peltier too. And I highly suggest you check out some of the songs that he's written.
Well, I would say Springsteen. Not much of a Sopranos person, but hey, more than the time to change, Maybe David could turn me into a Sopranos. Maybe Burgess. Good Burgess could change me into a Sopranos fan. Because I've heard of the show, but I've never really actually sat down and watched it. I think I should.
About Leonard Peltier, they are very, very goofy. But last but not least, I wanted to talk about Chris Christopherson, who is also a member of the Highwaymen. And he was somebody who was an incredible poet and writer and thinker, and he's a musician that you really should dive into if you're not familiar. But he's somebody who too had to fight to get into the record industry, and they would constantly, even when he became a big star, would tell him that he could not sing the songs about the things that he wanted to sing about, or they would try to censor his music, right? And that's because he was an outspoken critic of U.S. imperialism, not just the war in Vietnam, but he was a supporter of the Sandinistas. And he was obviously an outspoken critic of the war in Iraq. And he had to spend his career, even though he was one of the most famous artists out there, constantly having contracts pulled out from underneath his feet because
Chris Christopherson, I just have to say this, Christopherson and Merle Haggard and the Dixie Chicks were all country musicians that I can recite from memory. Not a whole lot, but the three that I can remember. Obviously, the Chicks. Obviously, Christopherson and Haggard were country artists who didn't align with the typical conservative, like Republican viewpoint supporting the Iraq War. They weren't all like Kid Rock, Rascal Flatts kind of. But I state my case.
Record companies didn't want somebody who was talking about truth and justice. And we have this last little clip here about him talking about censorship in music.
Okay, there's a ad, so hold on. Okay.
The reason that the music didn't have an effect on the war in Iraq.
I wonder if I hate to say this, but is Christopherson still alive? Is he still alive? I hate to pause again. Oh, he's still alive. He's retired now. He was born in 1936. He is 85 years old, and he's from Brownsville, Texas. He, let's see, they have like a year. Yeah, he retired this year. So he's been going since 1959. And then he retired this year, so. Yeah. That's the thing, though. Being on the road, being a traveling musician of any kind, especially the older, you get people now that are in their late.
Was not the.
You get people now in their late 30s, not even late 30s, but like maybe like early 70s, late 60s, early 70s. They're still out there. You got the Rolling Stones. I'd say Charlie Watts did it right up until until he went recently. So, yeah, but some musicians know when it's time to quit. You get what I'm saying? Some just know when it's time to stop. And knew it was time to stop. He's still alive. I just looked it up. He's still, Kristofferson is still, he's still kicking it. I'll say that for how long he can. At any rate.
We stopped making the music was that they stopped playing it. I think the people behind the censorship, I know ultimately it may be people in the government, but I think directly it's people who are affected economically by it, who feel that their product won't sell. I know that was the first excuse that was given to me. They said I had become unmarketable because I was writing songs like They Killed Him, which was about Mahatma Gandhi and Martin Luther King, and they said that I simply was unmarketable in what they perceived as my market.
And that's exactly it. I mean, Chris really lays out the dynamic there is people who have economic interests in making sure that certain messages are not allowed to reach the general public. And this, again, is somebody who is one of the most legendary and celebrated country music artists ever, who is having his own work be censored. I think, it's something that's not unique to country music, but it's something that I think we should be more and more up in arms about, because, people oftentimes say, it's like, oh, I miss the golden era of country music when people wrote, great songs and stood up for social causes. That still exists today. The problem is that the record companies have been able to win that fight, that they are able to prevent anybody from getting big and famous who is not going to toe the line. There are exceptions, and that's a good thing. But what we're seeing in country music right now is not that the music itself or the style of music or the idea or the history of it, is conservative or necessarily needs to make the kind of terrible music that you're hearing today. It's actually happened because there is a deliberate choice by those at the top to make sure that this music is bleached of any kind of radical message, pro-worker message that is its roots and its history.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And the way that he talks about the kind of overlapping interests, sometimes it's political, sometimes it's economic. Mm-hmm. We've seen this more too with people talking about Nina Simone's life, everything that she went through, which is just absolutely heartbreaking and brutal for her political messages. Mm-hmm. And I like your point that it's not that the music is changing, it's that who you're hearing is changing.
I think that's exactly
that "We'll Put a Boot in Your Ass" song.
Toby Keith is a real jackass. There's a funny story about Toby Keith and Chris Kristofferson to tell maybe later.
Oh. Yeah, we should do that. We should bring in Jason for that.
Oh, this one of my favorite segments, probably one of my all-time favorite segments of David. Of course, he does a lot of good things, but yeah, it's like one of my all-time favorite David segments. Yeah, it's one of my all-time favorite David Griscom segments. He's just totally awesome, just knowledgeable about things like politics and music and social causes. I mean, his whole take on Johnny Cash is just something I can't get enough of. His take on Kristofferson and Waylon Jennings and Willie Nelson. He's really I have to say, part of me just wants to go reach out to him and say, dude, we're sort of from the same background as far as coming up in sort of a country issue. Again, I grew up kind of in a Midwestern, in a very Midwestern Missouri upbringing. So he obviously grew up in Texas, and I grew up in Missouri. So we have sort of like a similar background, if you will, of being in the country and having listened to country music. For me, it was more like regrettably when I was like much younger, when I was, 10, 9, 10, 11, 12, having to hear it on the country or on the school bus radio every morning and every afternoon when you go to and from school. And it was just like, I'd rather really listen to something. I wish I'd had like a portable, transistor radio that would just, I could put my headphones in and play the radio station of my choice, which was the local radio station that played the alternative music at the time. But now listening to someone like David, who again is the same age as me, and very much so a political ideology, similar ideology, contemporary, I should say, of background, and it's like, that's awesome. Like, you've turned me on to something that I dismissed when I was younger. Yeah. So I like that. I really do like that. Well, it's after 8:30 on a Wednesday night, on the first full night of fall. I honestly am glad that summer's over. Like, the season is changing. It's like one of my favorite seasons because I know that before I know it, long sleeve weather, jeans weather. I've already started breaking out the hoodie. I broke it out today because I just couldn't resist. And I think I'm gonna kind of end a little early because I can feel myself getting a little tired. And then I'll definitely come back tomorrow for I'm sorry, I was distracted for a bit, for another episode, and hopefully talk about something a little more nuanced than what I had initially planned tonight. Not again with the first video. No disrespect to Crystal Ball. No disrespect to Bosch. No disrespect to Sagar either, even though that I am not his ideological ally. I am more David Griscom's ideological ally as far as politics and music. But it's a very fractured world as far as being on left media, of who you choose to side with and how much you decide to side with them, and how much you are a fan of them. If you're like me, you like certain aspects of the bubble, or you like to think outside of the bubble. You don't like to be in the bubble, you like to be outside of it. And or you're like someone else who likes to be inside the bubble and just be in that particular bubble and not anything else. That's true as ever. But I know it's 8:37. I know that I've only been on for an hour and 29 minutes and 32, 33, 34, 35 some odd seconds long. But I hate to cut it short. I hate to just leave everyone hanging. But I'm gonna cut out tonight, get some rest, and come back tomorrow with hopefully some more interesting subjects. I do, however, finally want to talk about Craig Whitlock's book, The Afghanistan Papers, because I finally got a copy of it, and I've been reading it slowly but surely, and I do want to come on and talk about that book, because that is a very engaging book. Very engaging. It's got me by the testicles. I just couldn't help but say it. Should we play our clip of the night? Should we play it? I should probably play that clip of, if you know which one I'm talking about. My usual, it's got a play clip or an advertisement. Hold on. All right, hold on. Let's see. Let me screen share so I don't forget people. Anyway, what are you sharing? Okay.
Used to him, and here's how he.
Dave Rubin. Steven said they hate Dave Rubin because he's a gay man with the wrong opinion. Dave Rubin is gay? No! He got a husband? I did not know. I was in his presence. I didn't know. I shook his hand. I sat down with him. Why did y'all tell me before I went on the show? Oh, why would y'all? No, I did not know. I was in his presence. I didn't know. I shook his hand. I sat down with him. Why would y'all tell? Why did y'all tell? I shook his hand. I sat down with him. Why would y'all tell? Why did y'all tell me before I went on the show? Oh, Steven, why would you send me this? Oh my God, Steven, you ruined my day.
Oh man, that is so good. That is like so.
Maybe.
That is like so awesome. Never gets old. It never gets. That's like the signature clip I have to play when I want to do a cutout, do an end show. Just play the clip of the Jordan Report reacting to Sotomayor, reacting to Dave Rubin, finding out he was gay and he freaked out. And then he does the hand thing. Yeah. Anyway, you've seen it. I don't need to explain it more. Every time I explain it, it gets stolen. So anyway, I'm out for the night and do the whole thing. Catch the show. I think I'm going to do it 7 to 9. I think I'm going to have to knock off an hour instead of. I'll probably have to do an hour instead of 3 hours. So probably for the rest, at least until the semester, it'll be 7 to 9. Yeah, on Twitch. Read me on Substack, which I've been doing lately. Up with the Substack and start writing more. That's one of my end goals is to start writing and blogging myself. Keep myself informed. As always, follow me on social media. I'm on Twitter, Facebook, Twitch, YouTube. Friend me. I won't bite yet. Just kidding. Donate to Patreon. You know, honestly, it would not bother me if you only gave just a little bit to support the show. Because quite honestly, it wouldn't go to me. It would go to me having a potential staff on the show to make the show better. And that would act as their pay. You know, the Patreon donations would be the pay of the staff, so to speak. And what I would hope to be a generous thing. And as always, I know I sound so tired. It's been a long day. Like and subscribe. Hit me up on, or not hit me, but like me on YouTube, hit the like button, hit the subscribe on YouTube and Twitch. And, yeah, that's about it. That's oh, and also catch the Sunday stream with RC Roberts, Parochial Enemy. We do that every Sunday at 12 noon Central Time. We did a show recently about Aaron Sorkin, critiquing him and his work. Well, not necessarily critiquing his work, praising his work as a writer, but also critiquing his view of left politics. I did that on Sunday with RC Roberts, and that's going to be a new thing that I do at least every Sunday at 12 noon again Central Time. So tune in for that. If it's Sunday, it's a Sunday stream with RC, and also go hit RC up on Twitter as well. He's Wheels of Mind. So he's at RC Propaganda, at RC _ Propaganda on Twitter, and RC Roberts on Facebook. And I think Parochial _ Enemy, ANIMI on Twitter. Parochial is FERCOI on Twitter. Anyway, that's me kind of plugging my good comrade RC and Plugging Mom Show. So, as always, take care of yourselves and each other. Left is best. Rest in power to Michael Brooks. Rest in power to Ed Asner. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care of yourselves. Have a good sleep. Peace.